Thank you. I wanted to refer to a tape you had spoken about a year ago. A gentleman, he was having problems with his 7th grade son in school. He wasn't interested and wasn't motivated. And I'm teaching in 6th grade now in the city. I just changed careers 2 years ago.
From what?
I was trading stocks on Wall Street. And I'm working in Ozone Park now with about 12 behavioral problems in one class, and I have another class. And the children, I'm looking at a sea of apathy. And I'm trying to be an inspirational teacher, and I'm excited about it, and I want to be a great teacher, and I don't know how to get to them.
What is your passion?
Love teaching.
What does that mean?
I want to share my enthusiasm for learning, my knowledge, my passion.
But you love teaching. In other words, you love teaching. So if you are sharing what you are about, then you are sharing your love for teaching with others who would love to teach. And what gets a little screwy in this situation is you are sharing your love for teaching to those you don't want to teach. You want them to learn. I'll tell you a little story, and then we'll come back to the specifics. We'll get to where you're reaching for. A few years ago, in fact, when Jerry and Esther first began working with us in this way, someone who was coming to their weekly gatherings was a vice principal of a school in San Antonio. And as she listened to us and watched Jerry and Esther, it occurred to her that maybe some of what Abraham had to say would be of value to the faculty at this school. And so she knew that they were not ready for Abraham, but she thought they might be ready for Jerry. And so she asked Jerry if he would be willing to prepare a sort of watered-down version of Abraham, a little less dead-like, and sort of express principles of success and deliberate creating. And so Jerry said he would be happy to do that, and together we worked on his presentation and helped him to define the specifics of what they were reaching for. And he put together a presentation that lasted about 45 minutes. And these teachers were assigned to this. It was called an in-service meeting or something, where they had to be there. It was not optional. They were not given the choice of to come or not. They were told, be there. And so they were there in their bodies, but they were not there with any sense of willingness to be there. And so Jerry began his presentation and saw some in the back there. It was a room full of people about like this, and there were some in the back that were grading papers from the day, and there were others that were doing their knitting, and there were others that were working on their own to-do list, and there were others that were writing letters to friends. In other words, they were there with their bodies, but they were not there to hear anything that Jerry had to say, because he was not there in response to their asking. They were in bondage, and he was there in response to someone else's asking. But talk about pushing a noodle, there was no reception that was going on whatsoever. And so Jerry realized that he was getting nowhere, and he decided to just stop talking. There was really no point in talking. They weren't listening anyway, so he just stopped talking and just stood there and sort of observed what they were doing, which was somehow interesting to them for the first time. And so they looked up and gave him, for a moment, nearly their undivided attention. And then Jerry said, you know, I imagine that those in your classroom are not really all that interested in what you have to say, because we all sort of get who we are, and I see who you are. And then he told a story of remembering being in school himself. And he talked about the teachers he remembered. And he talked about the teacher who saw him one day and saw something in him and saw it so clearly he reflected it back to him, and somehow, these were not Jerry's words then, but it was Jerry's experience way back then, somehow activated within him something that was meaningful to him. He talked about the teachers that were only there because they had to be there, who were sort of matches to the students who only had to be there. And then he talked about the teachers who were there because they wanted to be there, and the difference in the way they had ignited him. And not everyone in the room heard him, but more of them heard him than did not, as he helped them to understand that you always get exactly what you give And so the reason that we were asking you what your passion is because you're wanting to teach these kids, you're wanting to ignite within them a passion for life. So as you look out into this classroom and you see apathy, what's activated within you is apathy. And then as you say, well, apathy is activated within me, but I need to do something to activate something else, you can't possibly do that because what is activated within you is apathy. So you can't go into the classroom and ask the classroom to inspire you. You got to get inspired before you go into the classroom. You've got to let some other aspect of your life turn you on, light your fire. You have to find your passion, and then you go there with your passion already lighted, and you present an example of someone who is passionate about something. And those who are seeking passion in their life will learn from your example more than they will from your words. Cannot look at what is not working and make it work. You have to find some aspect of your life that is working and activate that so keenly within you that it just begins to work. And as Jerry thought back about his teachers, the teachers that inspired him were those that were already inspired. They weren't those that went to the classroom looking for inspiration. You are the teacher, which means you are the one who aligns with energy first, which means you do anything and everything you can do on that day to get tuned in, tapped in, turned on before you get to school. And when you get there and you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, you won't see apathy because you will not be a vibrational match to it. Everybody in your classroom could be apathetic, but one who could have some small interest. And if you are really connected with who you are, that's the one that you will ignite. That's the one that you will give your attention to. That's the one with whom you will have the relationship. What happens in almost every gathering is you look out into the sea of faces and you see what really isn't working, and then you turn your full attention to what isn't working, while things that could have worked go unnoticed. And so what we're wanting you to do, the assignment that we would give to you as a teacher to teacher, we would ask you to, before you go back into the classroom, make a list of the positive aspects of those with whom you know you will encounter, and make a determination that you're going to activate within yourself something that really rings your bells relative to 2 or 3 of them. And just make sure that before you go back into the classroom, you've given it enough thought that it's really activated within you. And it is our promise to you that when you all turn up there the next day that you turn up, you will not find apathy from those that you have activated something different. You will see that you have the ability to activate within them something that you've turned your attention toward. We all, as physical beings and as non-physical beings, activate within each other that which we are. And so you literally teach one another your vibrations. So as they already were apathetic before you got there, but you got there and observed their apathy, now they have taught you that vibration, and now you are reflecting it back to them, and that's your relationship. So you say, I don't really want that relationship, but that's the relationship that they taught me. And we say, then go somewhere else and get something else activated within you, because as sure as something else is activated within you and you're holding any one of them as your object of attention, it is our promise to you, you will activate something different within them. So now it comes back to what Esther was thumping on the podium about earlier. I can damn well choose what vibration is dominant within me. So do I go to a classroom and let what they've come to activate the vibration within me? Or before I get there, do I choose what vibration is activated within me? So we wouldn't, again, ever label them as apathetic. We would call them a variety. We would call them so different, each and every one of them. We would call them potentially inspired. We would call them leading edge thinkers. We would call them out on the leading edge of thought. We would call them creators in their own environment with desires bursting forth within them. Get a glimpse of who they really are, and a fire will be lighted within you that will light a fire within them. It is our promise to you.
So on the weekends, I can picture 8 or 10 students and the expression on their faces when I'm getting through to them. I picture the students that I tutor at lunch, and that's inspirational to me. So I should hold on to that and say, and be satisfied if I say, okay, I get through to half the class. Should I be happy with that?
Be happy if you get through to 1. Be happy if you have a moment without them that feels good to you. In other words, don't make your happiness about them. Make your happiness about you so that you are radiating it effervescently and clearly and purely and consistently. In other words, when you hold a desire which they have inspired within you, which you can't believe right now because what you're looking at is far different from the desire. But when you, on the weekend, line up with your desire, 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 until you are in alignment with your desire, they've got to come and play with you. In other words, it's all about whether you get to decide how you feel about them or whether you get to let them decide how you feel about them. And you get to choose how you feel about them. We admit it takes some work, and we acknowledge that most of you are not really ready for it in the beginning because you are used to responding to conditions. You see someone who's energetic, you respond to that. You see someone who's apathetic, you respond to that. But what we're wanting you to do is not make them your only object of attention, which makes you apathetic. Instead, what you're wanting to do is have your life be so rich, so full of so many other things that you're just high on life. And when you're high on life and not using them as your one and only object of attention, even when you're in the classroom, now some of them are going to want to know, why are you so happy? And in the beginning, they may say, you're happy because you live differently. You've got a different life than I've got. You have different circumstances. But we promise you, if you demonstrate connection to Source, you will activate within them a memory of it, because every one of them has had keen moments of connection to Source.
Do I respond to the cackling? Do I ignore it? Do I respond to the books closed totally when I'm teaching a lesson? They're supposed to have their notebooks open, the books open. Just, do I respond to that? Or do I keep going and get to those that I'm connecting with and leave those?
Have you ever been really excited? Instead of classroom, think girlfriend or think friends. And think about something that you've really been excited about that none of your friends really were. Or even think about family. That's an easier way to do it, where you've gone off, you've got excited about something, and now you go back home, and you're excited about it, and you're babbling on, and they are not giving you any attention at all. But you don't care, you're still babbling on, because what they think about it is insignificant to you in relationship to how you feel about it. That's how you want to feel in this classroom. In other words, how do these subjects grab you? Are they interesting or are they boring? In other words, how do you really feel about this stuff? Has to reach very delicately for that word. How do you feel about this stuff that you are teaching them as if it is important? In other words, how much of what you learned in school as you were coming through when you were their age are you applying on a daily basis? What is the subject that comes to mind that you were expressing to them last time they were not listening?
Math.
So, how important is that math to you on a daily basis?
Well, it was pretty important in Wall Street and going to the bank.
They're not in Wall Street. How important to you on a daily basis when you are 12?
Not very important.
So why should they be excited about it? In other words, you have to find some way of making some relationship between what you're... In other words, what we're saying is nobody learns anything that they're not asking for. And so...
The other day we went shopping to the Yankee souvenir store.
Yes. And
bought different items and lined up decimal places and estimated how much money we would have to take.
And what happened with them? Were they apathetic, or did the vibration of the classroom change?
Yes, I did get response.
It was different, wasn't it? In other words, you found a way of activating something within them that made them want to know.
Right.
And that's what teaching is. That's why we say words don't teach, life experience teaches. And so as you can understand their life experience and get your words closer to their life experience, you will have a better chance. But now here's the thing that we really want you to hear. You want to demonstrate your passion for life in order to incite passion within them. In other words, we think that you hit it right on the head without even knowing you were doing it, as you point out that what you're finding in your classroom is apathy.